Hey guys, welcome back. Today, just like always, we've got a bunch of crazy, heavy equipment fails for you. Mining fails, construction, train, towing, recovery fails, you name it. There's one clip in particular I really want you guys to see. It shows just how badly a recovery can go wrong. But we'll get to that in a bit. First things first. So what do we have here? All right, so they're trying to unload a bulldozer off the trailer. But one thing I noticed right away, the trailer is leaning a little to one side. And to make things even worse, everything looks wet. Let's see where this goes. Yep, just like I thought, it slid off the trailer and got stuck. The guy filming the whole thing is waving at the operator, telling him to back up, but he can't because the bulldozer is hung up on the edge of the trailer. If you ask me, the best solution would have been to have the truck pull forward while the bulldozer operator backed up at the same time, allowing it to come off the trailer safely. But hey, that's just my opinion. All right, something definitely went down here. One look at that truck's cab, and you already know it wasn't a good day. My guess is it got into a crash with another vehicle, and since it couldn't move on its own, they brought in a loader to get it off the road. But things didn't exactly go as planned. They actually made things even worse than they already were. We've talked about this many times on my channel. When you're dealing with LPG, one small mistake can turn into a catastrophe in seconds. On June 26th, a speeding LPG tanker crashed into a divider at the Sihori toll plaza in Kaushambi, Uttar Pradesh. The impact caused the tanker to overturn, releasing a massive cloud of highly flammable gas. Moments later, it ignited, triggering a huge explosion that turned the entire toll plaza into an inferno. 5 people, including the truck driver and toll workers, lost their lives. The fire also destroyed multiple vehicles, while several others suffered severe burns and were rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Emergency crews and firefighters quickly responded, secured the area, and began rescue operations as police launched an investigation into what caused the crash. Like I always say, when you're messing with LPG, there is absolutely no room for mistakes. One small error is all it takes to end in disaster. And since we're already talking about disasters, the guy you're about to see next has a real disaster going on inside his head. I mean, how low does your IQ have to be to try passing over a solid line while 2 trucks are coming straight at you side by side? And even with all that in front of him, he still went for it. Geniuses like this should have their license taken away for good. Here's another genius who should have his license taken away for good. School bus drivers are usually known for being careful drivers because they're responsible for carrying kids. But this guy right here, I mean, you had a clear view. You could see the truck coming straight at you, and you still decided to pull out. And to make matters worse, you got stuck right in the middle of the road. And another genius who needs to have his license taken away for good. This guy lost his rear axle probably because he hit some nasty bump at high speed. Now, this is one of the reasons why sometimes you should not fasten your seatbelt. If the operator had been fully strapped in, he probably would have smashed his head on that tree stump sticking way up out of the ground. Another advantage of not wearing a seatbelt is that when an operator is working next to water, or even on it, and the machine starts to sink, he has just enough time to react and bail out of the cab before it's too late. Now tell me, how do you even go from this to this? All right, let's rewind the footage and see what really happened. Well, the situation is crystal clear. The excavator was working on the edge of what looks like a pond, a small lake or something, and it seems like the right side of the machine slipped into the water, and then that old rule kicked in. The more you try to get out, the deeper you sink. That's exactly what happened to this guy. He gave it everything he had, trying to push himself out using the boom, but the more he fought it, the deeper the machine went into the water. The critical mistake came when he swung the machine, which ended up submerging the engine, the pumps, and everything he needed for even a small chance of getting out. Once that happened, the engine shut down. At that point, there's nothing left to do but wait for a recovery team to show up and pull him out of there. All right, what do we have here? The truck tipped over and a front-end loader is coming in to help. A pretty typical situation you see all the time in the construction industry. But what you're about to see is something that also happens way too often during recovery jobs. Something that can turn a simple recovery into a total disaster. You'll see exactly what I mean in a second. That's right, a lot of people forget to properly secure or hook the truck to something, and the moment it's back on its wheels, if the ground isn't level, it'll just start rolling, just like in this footage. Luckily, the loader operator was quick enough and saved the truck from an even bigger disaster. Now you're about to see how it's supposed to be done. Now, I know that in more developed countries, they have better recovery equipment, but they can still make mistakes too. What good is expensive equipment if the operation isn't organized properly? Everything here is well organized, and that's why the recovery goes according to plan. There is one thing I'd point out though. Never stand anywhere near a tensioned tow cable. In the next clip, you'll see exactly why. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier, and at the beginning of the video. This happened in Russia, and unfortunately, it ended in a fatal accident. The tow cable snapped and beheaded the guy who was standing on the tank. That's why I keep saying this in my videos all the time. Never stand anywhere near a tensioned tow cable, because something like this could happen to you. In general, never stand too close to heavy equipment when it's working. Always stay outside the working zone. And how far is the working zone? Well, apparently not far enough. Those bystanders who stopped to watch were incredibly lucky. If that thing had hit someone, well, it would have been fatal, just like in the previous clip. There are some things I'll never understand. Why the hell is nobody doing anything? I mean, they obviously know where the train is coming from. They can clearly see that truck stuck on the tracks, and it's pretty obvious that if the train hits it, that truck is going to get launched straight at them. I don't know, guys. Sometimes it feels like human life just isn't valued that much in some parts of the world. Legend says the guy who cut that pipe still hasn't landed yet. Nah, I'm just kidding. He managed to jump out of the way right away. But for nobody to notice that kind of pressure in the pipe, that's a serious oversight by the contractor. I've seen clips where a guy literally gets sucked into a pipe because of the flow and extreme pressure inside. That kind of force is no joke. It's pretty common for a haul truck to get stuck while being loaded because of the weight, especially next to an excavator. But from what I can see, this looks like something completely different. It looks like the ground literally split open, almost like there was an earthquake or some kind of landslide. Either way, the ground gave way right underneath the fully loaded truck, causing it to fall straight onto the excavator. Judging by this sandy soil, I think this recovery is going to be very difficult. Now, this is a little different from the previous one. Everything here makes it look like some kind of flood, maybe a mudslide. You can see the truck is buried almost all the way up to the dump bed, and the wheels are completely covered by all that material. Something very similar happened at our mine. You can check it out in the top right corner. And judging by the inside of the cab, I'd say this was definitely a flood that brought in a massive amount of material. How this front-end loader ended up flipped over like that, I honestly have no idea. If anyone's got a clue, drop it down below. Anyway, let's take a look at the recovery process. It looks like the operator bailed out of the cab just in time. Otherwise, judging by how that cab looks, he could have been seriously hurt. All right, this happened in Lauro de Freitas, Brazil. The truck was trying to climb a steep hill when it suddenly lost power. Whether it was an engine or transmission failure, it simply couldn't make it up the hill. Once it stopped, gravity took over. The truck started rolling backward, the driver lost control, and it crashed into a house and a parked car before finally coming to a stop. Here we can see it from another angle. You can clearly hear the driver hitting the brakes, but there was just no way he could stop the truck. The good thing is that no one was injured in this accident. Now this right here, I mean, geez, hats off, buddy, way to go. I'm a grader operator myself, and yeah, I've punctured a tire before. It happens. But man, out of 6 tires, this guy managed to take out 3. That's next level. That's wild. He actually managed to climb all the way up to here. He's only got a few more meters left. Hang in there, buddy. You got this. I'll never get this. How do you not notice or even feel while you're driving that your dump body is still raised? That's wild, man. Judging by the police presence, the officials on site, and the police tape, I'd say something serious already went down here. It looks like there may have been some kind of unexploded device still hidden in the debris. Luckily, the operator walked away without injuries after the explosion. Dynamic compacting machines are used to increase the density of soil and other ground materials by applying intense, repetitive impacts. But let's see what happens when it drops onto this minivan. My guess is he'll end up flatter than a crepe, and I mean a European-style crepe. Let's move on to the next clip, shall we? I know this trick really well. He was trying to balance the weight and keep the whole loader on its 2 front wheels. But to pull something like that off, you have to be a pro with a whole lot of skill. When you try a stunt like this, you have to keep your balance using the front wheels, and that's a lot harder than it looks. Instead, this jackass kissed the windshield and ended up with the machine stalled, sitting on its front wheels with the rear end hanging in the air. Way to go, bro. Soon after, a bulldozer showed up to support the bucket so the loader wouldn't slam down on its rear end. Let's see what happens. Well, after this, I don't think he'll ever try that again. I can't really blame this guy. Unlike the stuntman in the previous clip, he was just doing his job. And yeah, sometimes shit happens. Since we're already talking about wheel loaders, check this out. This is a Chinese Long King, King Kong, or whatever it's called. The funny part is, the gear indicator says it's in neutral, but it's actually in gear, and I'm driving it. Well, they say China is taking over the construction equipment industry. Road quality in India, Bangladesh, and that whole part of the world is often pretty poor. We've even seen plenty of videos where, right after fresh asphalt is laid, locals wait for the road crew to leave and then start scraping it up with hose and loading it into wheelbarrows for their own use. And what's even more hilarious is that I think this is actually a road paving machine, a paver, and it sank right into the road. I don't even think that's asphalt. It looks more like compacted soil or something. Well, I honestly have no idea how he managed to end up on his side. I really don't. It looks like the truck was fully loaded, and I don't see any steep slope or anything. Everything around him looks flat. Anyway, let's see if the excavator can get him back on his wheels. A little tip for you guys. If you want to soften the landing and reduce the impact and damage during a recovery, put some material under the wheels where the machine is going to land. For a moment, everything looked completely normal. And then it looks like the grader lost traction, almost like it just shut itself down. The operator bailed out of the cab in time. And once again, we're back to what I mentioned earlier in the video, that this is another advantage of not wearing a seatbelt. Domino effect. Something similar happens in warehouses when a forklift operator accidentally hits a storage rack and the whole thing comes crashing down. Here, it was a lot more dangerous. One concrete column cracked, bringing the entire concrete structure down with it. The workers managed to run away, but the vehicles parked weren't so lucky. And just when we thought this Skoda was going to make it out, boom, this happened. Now, this is the perfect example of work smarter, not harder. This guy figured out how to park the truck so he could get easy access to the underside of the engine. And on top of that, he's doing the whole job in the shade. And what's about to happen now is an absolute joke. He literally managed to trip over himself. This is a pretty common scene in the forestry industry across Mexico and South America. People always try to load as much as possible in one pass, but sometimes that comes with a price. Old, overloaded trucks on steep, loose gravel roads like this usually don't stand much of a chance. But that's why we have this brave muchacho here to save the day. But if the tow cable that's pulling the truck snaps, only the muchacho's hat is going to make it out alive. Man, this looks so familiar. A few years ago, something like this happened to me too, except there was snow. I was clearing a forest road when my grader suddenly slid onto the slope. It wasn't nearly this bad, but I still got stuck. Too bad I wasn't doing YouTube back then, because I would have recorded the whole thing. Anyway, this guy ended up in a much worse situation while they pulled me out with an excavator. This guy was seriously lucky. He lost traction, slid out, and smashed straight through the bridge railing. Luckily, the loader somehow got stuck right there, and that's probably what prevented this from turning into a tragic disaster. If you thought this was just another stuntman doing it for the show and the views, you were wrong. This is actually how it's done in marble quarries. Loader operators often use this technique on purpose. They let the weight of the marble block lift the rear of the loader, then slowly lower the back of the machine and drag the block in reverse. It's a lot more efficient than lowering a massive marble block with the bucket and risking damage to the hydraulic cylinders and hoses. Now, this is interesting. A guy's driving a pickup on a snowy, icy road, and this happens. Just listen to the driver and tell me, who's at fault?
Dude! Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking Yeah, I'm good. Just fucking dumbasses. Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate it.
Now the driver is furious, and honestly, he's got a point. If he hadn't dropped the plow, he probably would have slammed into the car that pulled out in front of him. But doing almost 50 miles per hour on a frozen, snow-covered road, that's a bit too much. And I think that they're both responsible here. And to wrap things up, we've got some next-level stupidity right here. I mean, how dumb do you have to be to drive a several-ton backhoe from a barge onto a dock without securing the barge first? They didn't tie the barge to the dock. They didn't have any counterweight at the back of the barge to keep it balanced. And when you ignore every basic safety rule, this is what happens. As the backhoe started driving onto the dock, its weight caused the barge to pitch forward and drift away from the dock. You can see the result for yourselves. The backhoe sank into the water with the operator still inside. The operator made it to the surface pretty fast. But what made the situation even worse was that the guy couldn't swim. You can literally see him fighting to stay above water. Total chaos right there. In the end, a boat arrived, and they managed to pull the operator out of the water. This is a perfect example of how quickly things can go wrong when people take shortcuts and do risky stuff their own way. 1 second, you're sitting in the machine. The next second, that same machine is sitting at the bottom of the lake. Well, guys, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video and like what we're doing here, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up and support the channel. It really helps us grow even faster. Until the next one, stay safe out there.